everybody to another Speak Up for Our Planet, this time on the subject of sustainable cookery. So very much looking forward to that. Just quickly, the usual preamble, which is that this event is being recorded and will be published on YouTube. So if you don't want that to show your face, then you need to hide it under a bushel. I have a couple of points to make about the agenda, which I'm going to show you on screen in order to make it clear, because it's not quite the agenda we usually have, just so that you know what to expect. Shally, who is on the screen, is a cook with two passions that make her a particularly welcome guest here. The first one is that she cooks, she loves food, she cooks spicy Indian food. She runs cookery classes. Her business is called Spice for Life, and she's going to tell us a little bit about that in a minute. And the other passion is the environment. She's always very keen to try and make sure that everything she cooks is done in the most environmentally friendly way, whether it's shopping, whether it's the way you cook, whether it's the way she prepares food. And she's going to be explaining all that to us as well. I have had quite a few questions from people already by email. So I will ask those if nobody else happens to ask them later on. And we want to encourage this to be a much more interactive session than normal, because, you know, if somebody's talking to you about hydrogen, you might well not know much about it. But if they're talking to you about cookery, you definitely do. You're going to have thoughts and comments and your personal experience and everything else. So we would like to encourage you to ask questions at the points during the evening that we've set for them. But also, if you have particular comments you just want to make, you just want to quickly make them and you don't require anybody to answer a question, please put those into the chat as well. And at the end, I will be saving the chat and I'll be able to publish it on the website or pick out the interesting bits or whatever we do. But please do feel free to make all the comments and questions that you want to make, because otherwise this will be a lot less useful. So thanks again for actually turning up tonight. I'm going to share the agenda, share screen here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okey-dokey. So Shally will introduce Spice for Life, her business, and then she has a few points that she wants to make about, well, she'll make them herself. And then we're going to invite comments and questions at that stage. And then we'll take a second part to the session where she's going to specifically talk about lentils, dry pulses, batch cooking, and making your kitchen sustainable. And then there will be another time in which we're going to invite comments and questions and so forth. And she's actually going to do a demo for us, which I think is extremely brave. And the end result will be cooked from runner beans and potatoes. And the only sad thing is that we won't be able to taste them, but we'll be able to see them. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and invite you all to mute yourself if you haven't already, so that we don't hear your dog barking. And I'm going to hand over to Shally.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. And thank you for inviting me here today. I'm Shally Bhalla, and I run a cooking school called Spice for Life. I started Spice for Life in the lockdown with the aspiration of teaching people to cook. Unfortunately, we couldn't bring people into the kitchen, so I decided to create a food pickup service just in my local area, serving my local customers here. And you know, needless to say, the food was highly anticipated. And what I was really surprised was it was attracted to the older generation because the food was freshly prepared, fresh vegetables, fresh lentils, prepared on the day in the morning of the delivery. And so, you know, cooking is a passion of mine. I'm a single parent and have been for 18 years. And so cost saving, living a sustainable life has always been a natural way of being for me. And also a full-time mother, so time is also important. So, you know, sustainable cooking, sustainable everything, you know, making things sustainable for the environment is very much at the forefront of where we are today. And it's the talk, it's the gossip, it's the discussion points everywhere we go. So, you know, with that in mind, I'm today bringing you a, you know, I'm going to go through the agenda as Jane illustrated. I'm going to talk a little bit about your kitchen and the important things you need to befriend yourself with in your kitchen, right from the basics of the types of the pans that you use, knives that you carry, and the general, you know, the way of being in your kitchen, you know, the way you befriend your fridge. And then I will also go on to talk to you about the ingredients you use for day-to-day cooking, vegetables versus meat, and also talk a little bit about lentils and pulses. And, you know, Indian cooking being my speciality, by default, we have a lot of fruits, vegetables, and pulses in our diet anyway. And so it's almost second nature for me to bring this to you today. Okay, so let's start with the first item. So first of all, you know, why do we need to help the environment? And why do we need to prefer vegetables over meat? Now, let me give you a statistic. Did you know 1 serving size of meat cultivates 20 times more greenhouse gases than the same size plate of vegetables? That's a big comparison. At the same time, it also takes 100 times more land to cultivate and create meat and meat-related products compared to consuming vegetables. And then the third item is red meat takes up twice as more water and has more water impact than producing nuts. So these are big statistics, you know, and if you think, you know, globally, the amount of meat consumption that we have versus how much vegetables we have, you know, vegetables become more important. And so it's really important that we start thinking changing the way we think and how we behave and how we carry ourselves for the environment. So I'm going to share some tips with you. So the first one is eating seasonal vegetables. You know, in the more developed countries, you know, we've gotten used to receiving vegetables, fruits, vegetables out of season. This is actually impacting the global food chain. So what's actually happening is that we are cultivating the same vegetables rather than you know, paying over the odds for out of season vegetables and fruits. So in order to save your pocket, the first thing is eat seasonal vegetables. The next thing is, I would say, is start thinking about exploring in different cuisines. So, you know, we're used to Indian cooking when we go to the restaurants. Try bringing the Indian food home. Try new recipes, new vegetables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you two vegetables that you may or may not have heard of. Now, Forgive me, these are in packets, okay? But these are the frozen variety. The first one is fenugreek leaves. Have you heard of fenugreek leaves? Some people have, some people haven't. It's a basic staple in the Indian kitchen. You can find the fresh variety. This is one of my favorite vegetables. It's high in the B vitamins and very good for women, I will say, in terms of its nutritional makeup. And it's fenugreek leaves. You can get the fresh leaves from an Asian grocer. Ask them for fenugreek, or also known as methi. Nowadays, you know, in some of the more bigger supermarkets, you can get the frozen pieces, and these can be mixed with potato, with a bit of salt and chili, and stir fried, and put in a pita bread or in a wrap and eaten. So that's fenugreek leaves. Those can also be added to chicken, fortunately. The next one is okra. I've also got frozen okra. So that's another vegetable. And you can get so many different varieties of vegetables. You know, Indian is not the only cuisine. Mexican cuisine, African cuisine, the use of yams, banana leaf. So the other one is bitter gourd. Have you heard of bitter gourd? No, unfortunately, I don't have one for demonstration today. But you know, in the Asian local grocers, you can pick it up, and it is deemed a blood cleanser, deemed a big powerhouse of blood cleansing. So, you know, I would urge you to explore other cuisines. Then the next item is, I would say, is a batch cooking. The batch cooking is what I do on a Sunday, where I am cooking in batches for the week. I also work full time, so for my daughter, I cook in batches, and this can be vegetable dishes, it can be lentil dishes, it can be a variety. I will tell you more about it in a minute. And so that's where I'll pause for a moment. Are there any questions?
I hope you're going to explain a bit more about batch cooking, because I know what you mean. You know, I presume what you mean is make much more than you need and then divide it into portions and freeze it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because I realized I was going into my second part, so I thought, let me start the cooking, and then when I've put that to rest for it to simmer away, then I will start the batch. I've got lots of props here. So, okay. So do we have any questions in terms of what I've talked about? No? Oh, yeah, Jennifer?
Hi, Shally. My hearing isn't that good. Would you be able to spell out those 2 bags you held up? Because I couldn't see the words properly, and then I didn't hear it properly. So if you could put it on the chat, the 2 bags of vegetables that you held up.
Yeah,
please.
I will do that. Jennifer, do you mind if I do that at the end?
Yeah,
I can do that right now.
Okay, thank you, Rosie.
Shally, and I'll pop them on the chat now.
Yeah, so that was bitter gourd, fenugreek leaves, and okra. Okay. Right, so I'm going to change the direction of the camera now, and I'm going to do a demo. And while I'm doing the demo, I'm actually going to express to you why I've used the utensils I've used, why I've cut the vegetables the way I've cut them. And yeah, okay. And then if you have any questions, feel free to ask me when we move across to face-to-face angle again. Thank you. So what we have here today is I'm going to do a really simple Indian recipe for runner beans and potato. Okay, runner beans and potato. It's going to be a dry curry. Curry I normally deem to be with a liquid next to it, but it's a dry stir fry. So what I've got is a non-stick pan, and I don't know if you can see, it's about 3 inches deep. 3 inches deep, and I've got about a tablespoon and a half of oil in the pan, and I am putting it up on gas mark 3. A few minutes. Let me know if you can't hear me. Okay, please shout if you can't hear me. And I have got my vegetables. You see that? Vegetables cut into triangles. The potatoes are cut into triangles. The runner beans have been chopped to about 1 inch long. So basically, I want them to cook at the same speed as the potato. Okay, that's about 100 grams of runner beans and 1 potato I've cut, 1 medium-sized potato.
Shally, is the potato cooked already, or is
No,
it?
no, it's uncooked. It's uncooked.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've just prepared it in terms of just cutting it and ready to put in the pan. Okay. So one thing I forgot was to turn on my electric cooker. But I'm just going to put it on full heat. And so you have my spice box. I'll just give you a quick demo in terms of what I'm carrying today. I've got salt. Let me know if you see that. Salt, turmeric, cumin powder. I've got ground coriander, chili powder, dry fenugreek leaves. That's the ingredient, the wet, the fresh version I showed you in the packet. This is the dried version used in a lot of Indian cooking. And then I've got garam masala in the middle. So for today's recipe, I'm going to use half a teaspoon of so probably 1/3 teaspoon of salt. You can do salt to taste. Can you hear the crackle? Can you hear the crackle?
Yes, just starting to.
All right. And then same amount of turmeric. And same amount of chili. Again, chili and salt can be to taste. Ever, and I'm sure most people these days carry turmeric, chili, and salt in their kitchens. I've washed vegetables and they're going straight in. So one of the keys when you're cooking is that you, the size of the pan should be enough for the contents of what you're cooking. If you look at
We're not being able to hear you very well.
okay, Okay, so the quantity of the vegetables I've used about the same size as the pan. Okay, I've covered that up and I've left it to simmer at gas mark 1.5. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So I was explaining about the pan. So with the pan, what they say is you should only use the right size of the pan according to the quantity of the ingredients that you have. Okay, so don't overfill the pan because you need vegetables. The vegetables need some space to cook in and the steam to rise. Don't overfill the pan, but it shouldn't be that you're carrying half an empty pan. Because I'll share with you a pan I bought earlier, and I'm going to just change direction. I'm going to leave the runner beans and potatoes to cook for about 10 to 15 minutes, and probably by the end of the talk, you'll be able to see the finished product. And that was really quick. So I was going to show you the importance of the pan. So this is the smallest pan I own. You see that? About 1.5 inches and about 10 centimeters in diameter. And I fry eggs. I make my omelets in there. Just when I'm heating little quantities, I use the pan. So, you know, it's really important to change the mind. You know, I do cooking classes. I've done a few cooking classes in people's homes, and how much it hurts for me to see people using the wrong quality of pans or the wrong utensils. Because what happens is, you know, if you've got a cheap pan, it's going to burn your vegetables quickly. You're not going to get an even distribution of heat, and you're probably going to have to cook for longer. With a good solid pan, you've got even distribution, and you know, it's going to take a smaller quantity of time for it to cook. And it won't burn. It won't stick to the bottom of your pan. You know, your vegetables won't stick to the bottom of your pan. A thin base doesn't work. The other item in the kitchen that I think people should get acquainted with is their knives. Okay, knives and potato peelers. A good potato peeler or a vegetable peeler goes a long way. Amount of times I've seen people using blunt knives to peel potatoes and taking off more skin than they need to. And so it's really important that you invest in good knives, good potato peelers. And my favorite 2 knives are these. You know, I picked these up from a local, well-named hardware store. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, you know, call out names, but really important to get good knives and good pans. So that's really important in terms of when we're cooking. When we're cooking, it's really important to think about, you know, planning ahead. So when we start cooking, planning ahead is really important. So let's start from the beginning. You know, you're planning ahead. You're going to go to Tesco's. Oh, you're going to go to your local grocers, and you know, the shopping trip. Now everything is packaged. Everything is packaged with plastic bags, things like that. And so what I've tried to do is, where I can, try to get unpackaged fruit and veg. I've even tried going to the local grocers. And so is you can pick these, can you see, like nylon bags with these retrievable, ties. And I bought a 10 pack, different size, for my green chilies, for my potatoes. I bought 10 of those, and that's what I take with me. And so I'm not using the plastic packaging that's coming out. So when you're going shopping, that's really important. And we talked about buying in-season fruit and vegetables. Explore other cuisines. Get recipes off the internet. Try something new, maybe one every week, and you'll begin to see the difference. Then what I'll do is, when we're looking at different cuisines, I will point you in the direction of lentils and pulses. Now, lentils and pulses make a big part of the Indian cuisine, a very big part. So what I can do is to just twist the camera a little bit, and I'm going to show you some lentils. So these are green lentils, okay? These are green lentils, and they take about 20 minutes of boiling in water with some spices. And this quantity could easily feed 2 people. Sorry, there you go, 2 people. Actually, this was green mung lentil. This is green mung lentil. Oh, green mung. And this is washed green mung half lentil. Now, with lentils in Indian cuisine, you get the same lentil in 3 different ways. You get whole with the skin on, without the skin off, with the skin off. So this is with the skin off, and then split. Unfortunately, I don't have the split version of this particular lentil, but that's what it would be. Then we got these black-eyed beans. I'm sure some people are familiar with black-eyed beans. This is another pulse, again, cooked with tomatoes, onions as a garnish. Makes a delicious meal served with rice and bread. And typically this will arrive in packets. I'm going to show you. A lentil packet. This is a kilo. This is a kilo. So this is a kilo of a mung split yellow lentil. This is a kilo, and this will probably set you back about £3. £3, but this is what my daughter and I will probably go through in about, I don't know, if we have it once a month, this will probably take 6 months to finish. 6 months to finish. So that's 1 kilo. You get larger varieties. This is chickpeas, black chickpeas, and that's 2 kilos. And this is going to last me a year. If I cook it once a month for my daughter and I, this is going to last me a year. And typically the cost of this is £4. £4 to maximum £5, depending which area you go into. In the typically Asian stores, this will go for £4. And so imagine this lasting you 12 servings, if not more. And again, this can be served with rice bread, eaten on its own with salad. It's delicious, really, really delicious when made. And all of the vegetables, I mean, all the lentils and pulses that I've shown you today are high in protein and fiber and B vitamins. I can't say enough. You know, where the Asian subcontinent is predominantly vegetarian, you know, these lentils and pulses are a great substitute. And you know, the beauty of some of these lentils is that you can ask me, Shally, you know, that's a lot of, like, I don't really want lentils the following day. I don't want to eat leftovers the next day, the same thing. What do? Now, the beauty with lentils is you can actually make it you can eat it in 3 ways. So lentils can be eaten with rice. You can have that with cumin rice, rice and peas, onion rice, vegetable rice. So that's the rice accompaniment with lentil. You can have lentils with bread, Indian bread. So here's one I prepared earlier. And it was actually made from flour. I don't know if you can see that or the light shining on it, but this is just normal flour, which, you know, most people make on the day or the day before. And you know what I learned to do? I learned to freeze it. My mum's never done it. None of my family did it, but I experimented. I started rolling it into doughs. And you know how in pizza recipes and baking, English European baking recipes, they say, well, if you've cooked if you made too much dough, freeze it, use it another time. So I thought, you know what, let me try it with my chapati flour. And I did the same. And I made the dough and I froze it and I put 6 little boxes of them. And that lasts me 2 months if I use 1 a week. Now, the added bonus is with lentils. I didn't give you the 3rd variety. So I said to you, lentils can be used with rice, with different types of rice, with simple bread, just the simple bread. But when you've got leftover lentil, you spice it up with a little bit more spices, whatever spices you want from my spice box, right? And you make fresh dough from it. Fresh dough from this, and you make it into a lentil dough. So you know how you get tomato bread? You have tomato bread, you have cheese bread, all those different breads that we get in the European cuisines. In the same way, the Indian cuisine, when we have leftover lentil, we process it in our food processor and make a dough, lentil dough out of it, and bake a bread. And it's the most simplest thing ever, once you know how to do it. And then that can be eaten with cottage cheese, yogurt, anything like that. So what, you know, that's your lentils. That's your lentils. Are there any questions on lentils so far? I'm just going to give my potatoes and runner beans a quick stir. Any questions?
Do you have specific different ways of using the different types of lentils, or are they pretty well interchangeable? I mean, I'm very fond of brown lentils and green lentils, for example, because they keep their shape, whereas the orange ones tend to turn into a mush. So
you know what, it's all a trick in how long you cook. They turn to mush. So what you can do, and in Indian cuisine, you can mix your lentils. So the orange lentil is mixed with the yellow lentil, all right? And we make not a thin soup, but a grainy soup. Okay, a grainy soup, and then we temper it with onion and a little bit of butter. So you temper it with, and you can put cumin, roast it with cumin. You can, cumin, you can put some garam masala in it and have it. And, you know, so the accompaniment in Northern Indian cuisine is red and yellow lentil. Yeah, and then tempered with a little bit of butter and onion. And when you're, so one of the things as children, when we weren't too well, you know, had a cold, I couldn't eat very much, my mother would cook this with red lentil with just butter, nothing else, just so that we'd get nutrition. So it's one of those sick nutritional power foods.
Okay, we have a request for to know how to make the lentil bread, and I agree with that.
Oh.
So either if you could explain really quickly, or if you tell me afterwards and I can share it with everyone.
I can do a demo.
Okay, have you got time?
Not today.
Okay.
I haven't got any leftover lentils today.
Okay.
Basically what happens with leftover lentils, so there is, in my humble opinion, not all of the lentils can go through the dough making process. I have a few favorites that give me extra flavor, which I feel have flavor and go well with the dough, and that's split chickpeas with brown lentil. Split chickpea with brown lentil and lots of ginger, tempered ginger, right? I don't put ginger in every single lentil type. There are certain lentils, so, you know, not all the lentils have the same characteristics. So, you know, like I mentioned, you know, the mung dal is, yellow dal is easier to cook, quick to cook, and is a superfood for the sick, right? But then what we have is the brown dal, so the one that you talk, urid dal. Urid dal is a heavier dal, and it's the royal dal in the Indian cuisine, and typically served at weddings and special occasions. So it's very rich, usually served with cream, and that typically has ginger in it, and have to serve ginger with it because it's got characteristics of being gas producing. And in order to circumvent that, you add the ginger, you know, to make it more digestible. But all the same, it still has, nutritional qualities.
We better let you stir your beans.
Hey? Oh, yes, you put your beans in there. Yes. Yes. You know what? I really need to give these beans a turn.
There's a lot of questions, both now and beforehand, about different types of cooking implements. So the difference between microwaving, pressure cooking, fan, oven, you name it. And I think to some extent it's obviously a question of suck it and see and figure out what uses the least energy. But do you have any particular thoughts about that?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to finish off one thing on the lentil. Okay, you asked me, is there a different way of cooking them? Mm-hmm. Some you have as a liquid soup, and the brown lentil, which is washed, you have as dry stir fry, and you temper it with ginger, and you have it. So not all of them are served as with runny sauces. Some can be dry and then used in wraps and things. So that's that chapter closed for now. Okay, right. So on to your kitchen and the way you cook your food. Okay, so and this kind of ties in with the batch cooking in terms of how you cook and how you use your kitchen. So firstly, the first item was microwave. So you asked about microwave. Microwave probably is the most efficient, you know, in terms of all the reading and research I've done, they say it's the most efficient way of cooking because it's quick, and you know, the heating mechanism is focused on the item itself in the center, so it's very focused cooking, and so the most effective. Okay, whereas when you're cooking on the hob, you know, it's dependent on the pan you use, how wide the pan is, you know, how wide your ring is versus the pan, you know. So there's lots going on there. But with the microwave, one of the things I'm going to put my opinion here is, while it's efficient and effective, I don't know the impact it has on my body with the rays that we use from a microwave. So, you know, I'm going to put that there. A lot of, you know, it is the most efficient way of cooking, but is it right for your health? I don't know. You know, so I have to put that caveat there, because, you know, we're using electromagnetic rays for the cooking. So, you know, in terms of research, yes, microwave's the best way. If you are doing baking, then maximize your baking capacity. So when I'm batch cooking, I batch cook my lentils, my pulses, and I don't cook for 1 meal or 2 meals. You know, two sittings. I cook for 4 sittings. I cook for 4 sittings because it's going to take me the same time, well, on a Sunday, to cook for 2 sittings versus 4 sittings. You know, I've got to clean 1 pan. I've got to clean 1 surface, you know, 1 knife. Whereas if I did it 4 separate sessions, it'd be 4 separate cleaning sessions. I don't need that. In terms of efficiency, time efficiency, in terms of when you're cooking. So I have an Aga, and in order to maximize my cooking capacity, I tend to, especially in the wintertime, now my Aga's switched off, but in the summer, but in the wintertime, I keep it on. And when I'm at home on that one day, I am cooking 3 different pulses or lentils, and I cook them in, I'd say probably 10-inch deep pans, about 250 grams of lentil or pulse, and I will cook, and I'm going to share with you, I should have had it prepared earlier, in glass Tupperware, which is freezable. It's not plastic, it's freezable, and it goes into the oven. Okay, yeah, and it goes into the oven. It goes on like that. A little bit, it's more expensive to buy than your plastic boxes, right? But it's sustainable and it's reusable, right? And what normally tends to happen is I will not fill it up completely. I will leave about 25% space there, so that when it defrosts, and then, you know, at room temperature, I put it back in the oven to heat. It's my serving dish. So I'm not wasting water either to clean, you know, to use another utensil. Right? So for me, I need to minimize my touch points. I need to minimize my washing and save water. So, you know, these are small changes in our behavior that make a difference. Right? And so so that was batch cooking. I never cook for 1 sitting. I try to cook for 4 sittings for 2 people. Obviously, when you've got a bigger family, maybe 4 sittings, and then storage may be a challenge, you know, in all our homes. So I understand that. But, you know, for a family of 4, if you can, try to, you know, try to cook for 2 sittings at least at home. You know, think about what your bases are. you know, think about what your bases are. So like when I said to you, I cook dough, I cook the Indian dough, you know, which I showed you with the flour, and I make 5 lots of these. That's it. It's plastic, but it's reusable. So, you know, anything that I've picked up from the takeaway, I don't throw away. I'm a hoarder of anything that I can keep and reuse until it dies, right? And so in here, I put my dough, and it's enough for 2 people. I freeze it, and then I take it out, and yeah. And again,
somebody wants to know where you get split chickpeas from.
Oh, split chickpeas, right? So I don't know where you're located, but split chickpeas you can definitely get from your local Asian grocer. I would say Asian grocer. Tesco's, when they in their Asian aisle, they tend to have mung dal and split chickpeas usually. You know, so I've gone into Tesco's and I have picked them up. Sorry, no more names dropping. What else? And also, when you do online shopping, even if you know the physical online, physical in-person experience may not be fruitful in obtaining all these lentils, you can get these things online through your local supermarket online service, for sure, for sure. The one thing you've got to remember, and I'm going to emphasize this, is some chickpeas, some lentils will take overnight soaking, okay? So you will need to soak them overnight to get the result you need. Yeah, you will need to soak vegetables, you know, and this is a little bit of preparation for not much. You know, you've got the nutritional value. You know, these lentils are so versatile. I could probably write a book, 101 recipes on lentils and pulses alone. And that's ranging from making it with rice on their own in 5 different ways, with the flour, without the flour. And then we haven't even touched the vegetables yet. We haven't even touched the vegetables. So, you know, the aubergine comes in 3 different varieties that I know of, and we cook them in 3 different ways. Actually, 3 different ways at a basic level, and then you can go in all sorts of directions. So, you know, the aubergine can be cooked in 3 different ways. You've got 3 different varieties. You've got peppers, green peppers, small peppers, stuffed peppers. The other thing is vegetables as leftovers. What do you do with leftover vegetables? You know, I've gone into, dare I say it, restaurants where I've not liked the food, and actually not liked the food, but I could not waste the food. I'm not a food waster. So when I go into a restaurant and I don't like the food, I will take it home and I will reconjure it. Yeah, I will reconjure it. Okay. You know, the other day we went to a Middle Eastern restaurant in a well-known shopping center. Beautiful restaurant, paid a really good price, and I tasted the meat and it did not have any flavor in it. So you know what we did? I made up my curry sauce, my lovely curry sauce with lots of, you know, tomato, onion, cumin, and these are grilled meats, and I threw them in the sauce, simmered it for about 10-15 minutes, and then had it with rice and bread. And there you go. So the food wasn't wasted. Okay. In terms of your fruit, in terms of your vegetables, you know, leftovers can be eaten just on their own. So the green pea, the runner bean and potato recipe I've just shown you, we have it with yogurt, we have it with cottage cheese, we can have it with bread, can have it with rice. So many different choices. You can put it in a wrap. Now, let me tell you, you know, like fenugreek. So typically fenugreek is made with potato. And so oh my God, it's a household favorite. Fenugreek with potato. You can make it on its own. You eat it with the Indian bread, but then you can stuff the Indian bread with it. So, you know, you make 2 slices of these, and then you stuff the filling in the middle, and then you give it a good, flip on the pan. And if you want, yes, you can put a little bit of butter in it and have it with cottage cheese. Right?
Sounds delicious.
It is.
I think all of our mouths are watering. I think we need to have a bit of a session answering some of the questions that have come in. Are you ready to show us your bean and potato dish?
Yes, sorry, I've gone over time. I got carried away.
No, you're all right. You're all right.
So it's a bit of a mess now here. You see that?
Yeah.
So, thank you very much. You see that? And because runner beans are so quick to cook, and the potato cooked very quickly as well. And it's not a wet curry. It's a dry dish, which typically, you know, when we have dry dishes, we serve them with yogurt. And in this case, our personal household favorite is serving it with cottage cheese. And then, you know, with bread. So that's how typically this would be eaten with cottage cheese. I mean, the thing is, you know, we can get wraps. You know, we can get wraps in the local supermarkets these days. So yeah, right.
And I think it's perfectly appropriate to give a little plug, since you're in Chalfont St Giles as well, to our local greengrocers, where you can go and just take a bag and put everything in the bag. You don't need to have any plastic at all. They're doing their absolute best to make it plastic free, although it's difficult to be completely plastic free.
Yeah, I mean, I know 2 stores. I know 2 stores where I go to, and I go with those bags. Is can I say?
Yeah.
Okay, the one in Chalfont, Little Chalfont, is Hirani. In Little Chalfont by the station. Hirani's, and very, very good, very fresh. And I was surprised how fresh their vegetables are. And the other one is Burley's. I think it's Burley's or Burley's on Chalfont St Peter High Street. I can't remember the name, but it's the grocer on the high street itself.
Yeah, Binnings or something like that. I know what you mean. The greengrocer on the high street.
That's right. Yeah, those 2
so
I do know.
If you have a greengrocer near you where you can buy stuff without the plastic, of course that's great, but not everybody does.
And I think we've got to reverse. And the thing is, I think I can't emphasize enough that you all need to know where your food is coming from. You know, where your food is coming from. Explore different cuisines. You know, we're experiencing a global crisis in the food chain right now. And, you know, something I feel really passionate about. And, you know, there are steps that we as a community can take, but trying to get 60 million people to do it, it's a big feat, you know.
Right.
And yeah.
Oh, Birrings. Thank you to Bob and Anne Bell. It's called Birrings.
That's right.
Sarah Jones says, is the steam coming from the beans? I didn't notice you adding water.
No, you don't add water. So, right, when we're cooking dry vegetables, we trust the water coming from the vegetable. And this is where, if you have good pans, See, if you'd use cheap pans with thin coating or thin layering, you know, without water, your pans will burn the vegetables. Here, I've not used water, so I've saved water, and I've used the natural moisture from the vegetables to cook the vegetables in.
Yeah, and the lid holds it in.
The lid holds it in as well. And so, you know, when I'm cooking my fenugreek with potato, I don't add no water in there. With okra, I'd never add water in there.
Interesting.
Yeah, never add water. It's, you know, with good pans, good utensils, steam cooking, and knowing your cooker, you know, your hob really well is really important.
Okay, I've got another question for you. It's a challenge to answer this one quickly, I think. You said at the start that the older generation welcomed your fresh vegetable cooking. How do you help people to move away from the habit of eating meat most days of the week?
You know what? How do I move? I've not really moved anyone, but the feedback I got from my cooking, from the pickup service was, Shally, your food is digestible. You know, it just goes through us, and we feel healthy eating it. And you know, I made one meat dish, and you know, I think 2 vegetarian dishes, and I think it's serving, you know, some of the pulses that we've got and the recipes I've got make a really good substitute for meat. You know, we've got people in our household, the men. I'm not showing a gender bias here in any way, but the men in the house who love their meat quite easily eat black chickpeas because they're like, oh my God, I want this over the meat that you've made. Not because I make a bad meat curry. It's just so digestible and yummy.
So be willing to experiment is the message, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Experiment. And I can't say enough. You know, there's such a variety in the world in terms of cuisine. You've got to try it, you know. So,
Shally, there's so much you could obviously tell us that we haven't got time for. So maybe we'll have you back another day. Maybe we will just put quite a lot of information on the Speak Up for Our Planet website about the sorts of things that you've been suggesting, and maybe expand a bit so that people get a lot of information. I'm taking 2 messages out of this, really. One is just look around, experiment, try things, be willing to have a go at cooking things that you don't normally cook, and make sure that you buy things fresh and in season. We had a speaker about food a little while ago who was making the same point but in a different way. He said, if you really must buy something like, I don't know what, blueberries, buy them frozen if they're not in season, because that way they're not being flown here, they're being frozen on site, and then they can be moved here quite slowly. Yeah. So just really think about what you're buying and when you're buying it and how you're buying it and that kind of thing. Yeah. And the other one is just being willing to try all sorts of different recipes, and I really enjoyed all of your information about pulses and beans and that kind of thing, and I think most of us could probably eat a lot more of those sorts of things. I think you've opened my eyes to the fact that there's such a breadth of different types of recipes that you can use these things for. Some of us get into little ruts, you know, and you have your lentil dish, but there are 53 different sorts of lentil dishes you could be cooking. So
indeed,
yeah. Let's be much more imaginative. And there are quite a few messages up here. Somebody said Amersham vegetable market on a Tuesday is non-bag mostly. Not everybody here is local, but you can all look around and just make sure, see if you've got a local market on a Saturday morning or something like that, where you can fill your bag full of apples and potatoes and everything without them needing to be any packaging at all. You just throw it all in your shopping bag.
Yep.
Somebody has just added, does anybody else find they eat more vegetable-based meals at home and then feel that you must serve meat when you have friends around for a meal? That's an interesting question. Let's have a show of hands. Is there anybody who does feel that when they have friends around, the kind of, it's not quite, what are you thinking, Rosie? It's not quite generous enough. It's not quite hospitable enough if you don't serve meat.
Yeah, I think there's still a big meat is something, you know, you've got to make meat for it to be special. And then when I get my friends around, they go, this is lovely. And now they talk about is all these fantastic vegetable dishes they're making at home. And I think I make nice fish dishes, but I didn't make them. They're not special enough, I think, is the mindset. I just wonder if anyone else finds they're still in that mindset.
Yeah, I think so a bit, but I think it's rubbish because there's so many. You just have to be willing to really try and make. I think vegetarian food does require some different techniques, different ways of working, and possibly more spices and possibly more.
Yeah.
Just using a bit more imagination. We had our vegetarian son living with us for a couple of years, and that did an awful lot to open my eyes to the fact that you can actually have some delicious meals and don't have to have meat anywhere near them. And anybody else? Have I got any hands up? I'm having a look to see if I can see any hands up or any more messages in the chat. Oh, Anthony and Chris are saying, because of this bias, it's very easy to exceed expectations with a great veggie dish. That's a really nice point. Yeah, you point out that it's veggie and people think that's not going to be very exciting, and then it is. So you make it really.
It's
right.
it's really important to make sure vegetables are made well.
Yes.
You know, absolutely well. You know, the worst thing you can do is serve mushy vegetables.
I think many of us in England of my generation can remember overcooked boiled cabbage and quite a number of things like that, which is enough to put anybody off vegetables for life.
Yeah.
So we just have to rethink.
Yeah, I could give you so many examples. I had a French au pair once, and you know, I was surprised that she couldn't. Well, she cooked, but she wasn't great. And she said, "My mum never taught me to cook." And then over Christmas, she was like, "Oh, you know," I said to her, "You're going to see your family. Your mother's going to cook." She went, "No, she doesn't cook. No, nobody cooks in my house."
Oh, I'm afraid that maybe a lot of households. One of the questions I was asked before this session, which hasn't come up at all yet, which I must quickly cover. Several people were pointing out that a lot of people seem to use takeaway. There must be a mass of people using takeaways, judging by the amount of takeaway rubbish that you see lying around and the number of takeaway outlets that there are, and how very expensive and probably unhealthy a lot of takeaway food is. And are there people around who are really trying to help support families to be able to cook quickly, cheaply, and nutritiously at home? I did some research, and the answer is there are loads. There are all lots and lots of local organizations that are trying to do this. But the one which is a really big national organization which is doing a lot of work in this area is called Feeding Britain. So if you take feedingbritain.org and look at their website, they're doing a lot of stuff. Okay. And again, I'll put the details on our website, but it's really interesting when you start digging around. There are a lot of people doing these kinds of things. So thank you so much, Shally. I think you've made all of our taste buds tingle, and I'm certainly feeling hungry now. Yeah, I've got some thumbs up, and let's, everybody we can see, let's give her a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.
And if there are more questions people think of, point them to me at sufopmail@gmail.com, and I'll send them Shally's way. Thank you so much, Shally.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Great session,
Okay.
Jenny.
Sorry? How are
I
you?
said, yeah, I'm fine. All the sessions actually excellent, the topics and all.
It's just too much to cover, isn't there?
Yeah,
How can you cover cookery in one session?
that is
But-
true.
But I think she shared some ideas and made us all start thinking a little bit more broadly about some of the dishes we can cook.
Yeah.
And let's share. You know, we can all share recipes and ideas. I bet you've got some, Gyoti, some really good recipes that you could share with us.
Yes, sure. And actually, presentation, making a presentation, like, instead of direct cooking, it will take a lot of time. But instead of step-by-step presentation of the cooking, will gives us very good, this thing.
Yeah.
You can imagine, because
Yes.
everybody is sitting at their home, they know how to bake, how to cook, how to boil, and how to, whatever the way we are doing. So I think that is very good. I am very foodie actually. I like food very much.
Yeah, I was amazed that she could cook potatoes from raw like that.
Yeah.
I would have par cooked them first, boiled them and then put them into the dish. But no, she just started with raw ones.
Yeah, because it is, I think, using a lot of fuel also. Consumption of fuel is too much. If we use pressure cooker, then there is a less consumption of fuel is there.
Yeah.
And we should boil the vegetable first. And then, within a minute, actually our food is ready.
Yeah. Pressure cooker is another thing that somebody asked about, but it was just too many things to talk about.
I think you can microwave vegetables quickly and then cook it. That is also
Yes.
very quick.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I use
so you can, if something takes a bit too long to cook, microwave it quickly and then put it into the wok.
Yeah.
I use the wok and stir frying
Yes,
all the
stir
time.
fry.
All the time.
I add little bit oil, potato, like small pieces of potato will also help, she actually cut potato in a very big pieces. That will take a lot of time.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
Carrots take too long to cook as well.
it is the basics, isn't it? Because one of the things I found with the batch cooking, I think it's great idea, and you're always putting a meal for two away every time we cook. And as Shally says, I've got to cooking for 4 meals at a time.
Yeah.
I've been able, I think, I don't agree with her on the I would use the microwave to defrost those things quickly and heat them. I might actually finish heating them in a pan to get even heating, but it's much easier. So I think the other big saving that I'm seeing is you only got, as she said, you only got one big pan. It saves on time and cleaning, but you put the one big pan heating the oven on once, do a big batch.
I'm a big fan of one pot cooking, I have to say. We make great big soups in the pressure cooker, and then it lasts us for 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was great. I'm going to pop up now to meet everybody. Nice to see you all again.
Yeah,
But,
I've got to go and have dinner now.
Yeah, I thought it was fun, and I like the different pace from some of our more slide intensive gentlemen that we've had in the past, particularly the
Yeah, no, it was good. It was nice.
whizzing through the slides. So I thought she was a very different pace. It was fun. So good. Let's see what happens with hydrogen in June.
Indeed.
It's not all hot air and hydrogen in June. See you all, guys.
All right.
Bye.
See you guys later.
Bye. Bye.
Thanks for coming. Bye.